Hello and welcome back to the Pro Gamers, and today I'm doing some more KSP how-to videos on getting the moon, or Minmus, or any moon of any planet or anything like that. So at the moment you can actually see my rocket that I'm using being built. It's got a larger, more fat lander. It's better to have I think a fatter and shorter lander than a tall and thin one, as tall and thin ones are more likely to fall over. It also has quite a large launch stage to get it into orbit of Kerbin. It's a bit larger than I thought it would be, but yeah, it works. And I've also got a transfer stage, which again is a bit too beefy for the actual job that it's doing, but everything works. As you can see, I'm putting landing legs on. I've got a small flat engine. The landing legs are meant to go past the engine, otherwise you end up blowing up the engine, and it's a bit disappointing then. I've got some solar panels and a ladder. Even though if you're making a minimalistic rocket, leave out the ladder. You don't need it. You can always use RTS from the Kerbal's jetpack. The actual rocket itself, the launch part to get it into orbit or Kerbin, it's got 5 large rockets, and you'll see it in a minute on the video. There you go, I'm building it. So it's got 5 large rockets, each with 2 large fuel tanks, and the outer fuel tanks are actually feeding into the inner fuel tanks, so it works out quite well. I put in struts on just to make it more sturdy. I have before had it so the actual outer rockets flip up over the top of the actual top part of the rocket, and that is not meant to happen, and it ends up in explosions. So if you like explosions, it's good. If you don't and actually want to do something, I would say not to do it. But yeah. Also, nothing to put on takeoff struts, as it just makes the whole thing more sturdy on takeoff. I put them a bit lower down there, and lower down the whole rocket so it's closer to the launch pad. It just looks better. So now I'm on the launch pad, and as you can see, the rocket is quite far off the launch pad, and it doesn't look as good as it could be. But anyway, what you want to do now is prepare for the takeoff. So press T, throttle up. I've got my stages sorted out, so it would take off in the correct order with all engines, bottom engines firing at once, and then launch clamps, letting go, basically. So yeah, so take off in about 10 seconds-ish. I can actually see how far it's going to be. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And there we go. So before taking off, it's a normal start, turning over at 10 kilometers to start getting into orbit, but firing up mainly at the beginning. Full throttle. You can see all my 5 engines. It's quite dark. One thing to note, that when you do drop off your outer engines, do not turn at all while they're passing over the inner engine. It's just the fact that if you do turn, then you may hit them, and it causes explosions and a mission which is gone into a disaster. So as you can see here, I have gone a bit too high. I did this because I didn't know if the rocket could get into orbit. This is a first flight of it. And I also did notice later on I have forgotten a parachute, which is important later on, you'll see. But anyway, I'm about to get into orbit, and then I'm going to talk about some more stuff to get to moons. When you're going to the Mun, or Minmus, you want to aim at having burning. Let's say if you're going to the Mun, just for example, you'll want to burn here at this point. But if you're going to Minmus, you want to be burning here. How I'm finding this out is if you look, if you imagine this as a clock, so this is 12. You want to be burning when the moon is at about 3ish, and the same here. So if I burnt here and didn't go that far, go back a bit, you can see I've already got an encounter. It's the easiest way to do it, but basically you want to be burning to get to the moon when you're here, when the moon is just coming up over the horizon. So I've got a 39-second burn with the engine that I've got, which is good. It's really good, in fact. In fact, turn on RTS by pressing R. I don't think I've said that yet, so yeah. I've turned on RTS. And it's quite useful for speeding up how fast you can turn in space. The engine does most of the turning when it's all throttled up, but when you're not throttled up and you want to turn, RTS helps a lot. And a cheat in a way is by time warping, as soon as you've got to where you want to be on the nav board, or how far you want to turn over or whatever. So it's all, yeah, that's a useful thing. So it basically just stops physics, and therefore your movement stops, and you keep on pointing in the same direction. So if you notice, our apparatus is now about the place where the moon is, but the amount of fuel that it takes to actually get from the moon to Mimas is incredibly small. I don't tend to develop encounters so they're actually suited more to you personally. So like if you want to go into polarized, you'll make it polarized and stuff. Well, if you want to land on the poles, I guess. But yeah, I'm just gonna leave it like that. I can do the rest when I'm down over there. It's just time warp away. One thing I normally do is I'll normally press time warp and go far too fast. And then I'll miss the whole encounter and I'll end up in places like around the around the sun, for instance, which I've done before. When I was trying to get to the Mon, because like I missed one encounter, then I time warped to the next one. I missed that one, and each time it can give you more and more delta V. So I was going faster and faster and faster, and then eventually I went around the sun. I returned in just. It took a couple of years in game time, that is. So yeah, I hope the Kerb was okay about that. So now you can see that we've got this line here and another orbit around here. Basically, this is the encounter, and then this is the orbit that you end up in if you miss the encounter. So once you're in your encounter, all that you need to do is slow down at your apparatus, preferably, and you will complete your orbit. So when you're finally going for the final approach to land on a planet or moon, you want to try and make it so your apparatus and periapsis are just above any mountains or atmosphere. So you do this by going to the apparatus and then slowing down. This will make your periapsis a lot closer to the planet or moon. You also want to try and land on the light side of a planet. It's just as easy to see, and if you haven't got any lights like me, then you can land happily. And also, this is just for Mimas, but you want to try and aim to land on the lakes, which you can see quite clearly. On the hills, they got slopes, and you can't see that from this map view. Also, generally, when you're going in for the landing, keep your apparatus slightly above the surface, as that will slowly go into the ground as you carry on slowing down on your final approach. So one thing to note is my velocity is actually quite high, at 153 meters a second. Is in fact an orbital velocity, so let's get rid of the stages we don't need. It's a lot easier to slow down with less weight, and now that's going to be flying on. And now it's like my velocity is now a lot lower. So yeah, I keep your velocity below 100 meters a second if possible. Now you can actually see ground scatter, which is a useful tool to have. It's basically just adding rocks and trees depending on which planet you're on. At the moment you can walk through them, which it is a pain, but considering that it gives you a notification on how close you are to the ground, it's quite useful to have. Also, what I'm doing here is I'm trying to put my descending node, as close to the top of the nav board as possible, pointing straight up. I'm doing this basically by just burning close to the horizon on whichever part of the nav board it's on, so directly below my descending node. Also, another thing to note: press G when you get down so close to the ground. It does increase how I believe it increases your drag, or at least it does if you use certain mods. But I don't use the mods. I think it increases drag, so if you're in the atmosphere, you may not want to put these down until a bit later on. Well, normally around this close to the ground. Also, you can see that we're not landing on the ice as I wanted to. It doesn't matter. It's just, yeah, it'd be nicer. And we can do some science. We've got 0 science because we're in creative mode, or yeah, obviously sandbox. No, it is sandbox. Creative is Minecraft. So for actually landing, you want to aim to land at about 5 meters a second. Basically, max 10 meters a second is just what the legs can actually stand. And we're down. So you've landed on Mimbus, you've done your science, you've planted your flag, it's time to head home, which is generally quite easy. It's just throttling up, getting into orbit, and then from there you need to get out to the sphere of influence of Mimbus, which I'll show you in a moment. When it comes to escaping the sphere of influence of Mimbus and returning to Kerbin, you want to be slowing down your orbit, which will be speeding up, going the opposite way around the orbit as Mimbus. In this case, that's speeding up on your apparatus. If you speed up on your periapsis, you'll end up going into interplanetary space, and therefore going further away from Mimbus and Kerbin and the system there. So now I'm just finishing off my maneuver. I've got to slow down a bit more to bring my apparatus down into the atmosphere. I normally aim for about 5 or 10 kilometers just to make sure I do not bounce back off into space. But if you have a mod like Deadly Reentry installed, then you'll want to aim for more of a 30-kilometer mark. It should be fine on most occasions, and you won't blow up in the atmosphere. It's also at this point that I notice I haven't got any parachutes on my rocket. This is going to be a large problem in the future, as you'll see. But when you're building a rocket like this, put on parachutes. It does help. So this is a landing that I don't think you should try and do yourself. Always put on parachutes, and yeah, enjoy it. It's coming in quite nicely. Do not spin out on me. No. Do not die. Please do not die. Haven't spun out yet. Let's lower the landing gear. Okay, I think I might make it this time. I might just make it. I'm surprised that I haven't spun out yet. I'm landing with no parachutes. This is, by the way, this is definitely not recommended. Do not try this at home. You'll probably die. Definitely do not build a rocket in your back garden. Unless it's one of them toy ones. I love them ones. I haven't built one in years. Or have I ever? I don't know. Might never actually built one. My life's been so uninteresting. Okay. Now, put this down. Gently. 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 And there we go. We're not spinning out. And with no parachutes. For the win. For the win. Oh dear. Oh dear. Do not die on me. Kurt. You're going to live. You're definitely going to live. We're running a bit low on fuel. No parachute landing for the win. Come on, Kurt. We're going to do this. We're going a bit fast, Kurt. We're going a bit fast. You can see the tops of the trees there. I've never actually landed without a parachute. From a moon. And we survived! I have to say, that was amazing. Oh, I feel so happy we made it. Good. So we've done it. We've landed on Kerbin from Minmus, something I thought was impossible, and it was not planned at all, I swear. Yeah. But if you like this video, and I think everybody should like this video just because of what just happened, please like the video. And if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. It does help. And also stay tuned, as in the future I've got a large project which I've been working on for well over a year with 2 other members of the Pro Gamers. And that's going to be ready within a month or 2, I hope. And yeah, thank you for watching and goodbye.